Hello, one person watching on my new channel. I'm afraid you won't be much interested in what I'm going to say about the debate. I finally had a chance to go through all the videos of the debate itself, of the post-debate stream, and even the one after that. I know people like Jay will have no interest at all in these matters simply because they think, as so many people do, that whoever wins the debate as far as their views are concerned are the people who say what they themselves feel better than they do. So this is how politicians work. Or are supposed to. This is how I work too. I say things that you think, or a group of people think, better than anyone else does, or better than most. And you will just agree with me, and if I say it well enough, you might even love me, but you will support me. That is the main thing. Now, the person proposing the opposite view will not be deemed worthy of your support, and therefore you will not be giving him or her your support if they state a view that you don't like. You might change your mind a little if you decide you like them as a person. Say if you fancied them. So women have the advantage in this, of course. So the debate I'm referring to is, of course, the debate between me and Church of Entropy. And everyone thought I lost, including my supporters. They felt sorry for me. They said, "Oh, why do you do this to yourself? That was such a total, utter humiliation, wasn't it?" But the point was that I don't mind. I don't care. Because as long as a point is made, personal dignity is really neither here nor there. And also, if you're interested in politics, you will find yourself running the occupational hazard of personal and public humiliation, well, for the rest of your political career. So only certain people are capable of putting up with this sort of sword of Damocles over their heads. I don't mind. I think it is character developing. So once I've gone through the videos and annotated them, you will actually find my blog post containing those 3 videos, and you can even comment on them. I like to think that Jen Schoff, aka Church of Entropy, will not be deleting my comments, so you can actually go there and comment on them. But so far, the comments have been disgraceful. Let me go through them one by one. The first one was, of course, of the debate itself. God, personal or impersonal? Question mark. Debate. That's the one. So, someone called Christine Ramsey, a Catholic and someone who hates me and my ideas, commented, "I found Jennifer's argument compelling. They explain early man's deification of the sun and the Platonic ideal." And her response was, "Thanks, dear. Cool observation." And then the second one was from somebody called John Lemon and the Sour Tones. "Nicely done. Very entertaining." And Church of Entropy says, "Thank you, dear." So somebody called We Are Free TV says, though I'm no longer religious, I'm not an atheist, for now I'm a theist, believing that there is a creator. I'm just considering how fragile we terrestrials are and the almost perfect climate that we have. As for personal or impersonal, I'm leaning towards impersonal. If there is a creator or God, then the laws are already set in place. As for personal God, people choose to have a relationship of their chosen deity. If one thinks a relationship with God can change things supernaturally, faith, wouldn't that just already be set in place by the creator already and people choose to use it or not? By the way, nice debate, though it could have been longer. I guess it could have gone on for hours and hours, getting off topic. Yeah, well, it did carry on for hours and hours, but I still couldn't get my point debated. So I'm afraid the only sensible view was from somebody, probably Muslim, who says Islam will conquer the West. Is a symmetrical creation from the creator that is in pursuit of heaven or nirvana proof that God is personal in what you can or can't do to reach what God has destined for you? So if there's stuff we don't know, the baffling thing is that Jen's tradition is oral, so no one can really reference if they are on the right track or not. Well, there is a problem here with how people express themselves, i.e. in broken English. So that's not going to clarify things at all, since if people can't express themselves clearly, then, well, what is the point? And it seems Doofit has posted a video of somebody called Cool Hand Luke being punched out. Doofit, you know, the one of the panelists. What were the panelists on the show? Well, there was Culture Bear, one of Jen's acolytes. There was the moderator, who has obviously been very keen to stay in Jen's good books. There is Gandalf, whose personality can be discerned by just a few minutes of listening to him talk. Who else? Well, I tried to get, I gave the link to Connaughts, but that was a wrong thing. Connaughts is an educated Dutchman who might have given an alternative view about my performance in the debate, but he was not allowed on. So there we are. That is the impartiality of Jen Scharf. So there we go. We go to the video of the second video, the post-stream debate. Doofit posts. That's actually a different one. Let me find. Once you click on the link, you kind of lose the video, and then you have to go back to the thing, and you can't find it. So sorry for the delay. So I was talking about the second one. There was the first post-stream debate that John Vance, who was one of my supporters, was kicked off or had to leave because of the hostile atmosphere and people talking over him and ignoring his questions. But we must expect that. It is par for the course in what Jen thinks is her system of justice. So what other comments do we have? Really intelligent ones like, so you don't want people smoking weed under a tree, by somebody called We Are Free. That's really intelligent. So the final one was the longest one. Really intelligent comments. Somebody called Jim Johnson. That's the one after Tuvid posts his video of somebody knocking someone up with a knockout punch. So Jim Johnson says, "Who's the sexy girl with the heater blockers on?" And a really intelligent one from Mike. "Jesus, don't you people ever sleep? That's the most you can manage." So there we are. And for my supporters, well, they don't think I won either, because one of them doesn't really care about arguments. It's just how you deliver them, the smoothness and the... Who cares about the arguments? Really, who gives a fucking shit about them, eh? As long as you can carry it off looking cool and with your friends saying, yeah, you won the argument. You've won the argument. Of course you have. Most people think like that, and that is precisely why most people don't deserve the vote. Objectivity, whither art thou? Certainly not in any of the streams by Church of Entropy. Now, if you will go back to the actual debate, you don't need to go through the whole thing. It is rather dull, but what I'll try to do is give you an annotated indication of what took place. So, Church of Entropy spoke, and I rebutted her claim. But before, or at some point on that video, I said, look, I don't really get what she's saying about why she thinks God is impersonal, or why she thinks an impersonal God would promote more morality than belief in an impersonal God. I don't see how she can address that in 7 minutes, and I want it on record that I don't think it is fair that I won't be able to ask questions. And guess what she said? Oh, never mind. Just address the bits that you understand. Therefore, since I didn't really understand much, I agreed. But she also said, if I don't understand, I will also ask questions. She didn't ask a single question. Not one. So my rebuttal was basically, well, I don't see how I can rebut something I don't understand. I don't see how I can rebut a claim whose basis is not even explained, which is merely asserted. So she makes assertions like the periodic table makes the existence of an impersonal God true. And so it's quite clear. Please read it. It'll save you time. Well, assuming you care, which I will, I assume you don't. Most of you are atheists. You won't care. Because you think anyone who's debating God is debating in the existence of something that doesn't exist. Total fucking waste of time, right? And then, and then the added layer of God is personal or impersonal, even more of a fucking waste of time, right? You know, you're talking about the nature and quality of something that doesn't even exist. But could you understand that for the purpose of this debate, we are both accepting the proposition that God exists? The moderator didn't understand that either. So this is the level of discourse we are getting, the people who are supposed to judge it. So I make the point that those who believe in the Abrahamic God, which is a personal God, personal in the sense that he knows our hearts and minds and we can pray to him. And he is supposed to know all these things in order to send us, after we are dead, to heaven or hell. I do make this point repeatedly, but it is not acknowledged, certainly not by Duvid, the Jew who is relied on to pronounce on all things intellectual by Jen Scharf. She lets him dominate all her dreams. She lets him interrupt anyone she likes, interrupts all her guests. That's the way she rolls. Jen's rebuttal actually admits that she cannot address my criticism. My criticism, or question that she didn't answer and cannot answer, is why an impersonal God would encourage more morality than an impersonal God. Let me read this to you. Claire has indicated that she doesn't understand how an impersonal God can lead to a peaceful situation, which is ironic because the world has been plagued by non-stop brutal conflict and war since the advent of the expansion of the personal Abrahamic God construct. So we can certainly have evidence for a personal God causing war and destruction. Well, she's saying basically that those who believe in the Abrahamic God wage more war than idolaters. Is that true? We don't know. Do we have evidence of it? She hasn't furnished us with it. And even if she had, would it be reliable? All those centuries ago, did anyone keep figures of war casualties and war? Well, we already know that history is written by the victor. I don't think she can prove this at all. She goes on to say, maybe it's less clear how to get evidence on how an impersonal God creates more peace, but let's leave that for now and just address Claire's arguments. She does leave quite a few of my arguments and dismisses them as if they were but nothing. Jen continues, so she opened with an ad populum fallacy. For those of you who don't know what that means, it means, oh, but everybody thinks X. So I'm certainly saying, but everybody who believes in the Abrahamic faiths, i.e. Jews, Christians and Muslims, believe in a personal God, i.e. in a God that will send you to hell or have heaven after you are dead, because he knows your hearts and minds and your motivations and your actions and your intentions and will judge you accordingly. And whether you believe in God or not, this is the narrative of the Abrahamic God. That's his attribute, that he is omnipotent, he is supreme, unique, perfectly moral, and omniscient and omnipotent. Omniscient, for those of you who don't know, is all-knowing. Let me continue. Jen Scharf says, so she opened with an ad populum fallacy, but because most people believe in a personal God, because they are part of the Abrahamic religions, therefore this is somehow an indication of its validity. Okay. Just because everyone believes in it doesn't mean it's true. I can explain that for you. She continues, I don't think this is a fair argument because the behavior of many of these people suggests that they do not have a very strong moral high ground. So she's basically saying that Jews, Christians, and Muslims are morally inferior to her. And this we're expected to accept unquestioningly. She continues, many scholars have indeed argued for an impersonal God within the Indian traditions. However, I do not think this is a viable line of interrogation because I do not feel that Westerners can really distinguish between the personal and impersonal God concepts. These are Hindu-type philosophies, but more accurately are described as Vedic in origin, so we'll leave that. So the implication is that Westerners are too stupid to understand Hindu scripture, and Jen Sharf is too lazy to explain it to us, or maybe she can't. She continues, Claire does not appear to mount much of a defense for a personal God aside appeals to utilitarianism. I do indeed say that it is useful for people to believe in God so that they would obey his laws. Because obedience follows. If you believe God exists and he issued all those commandments, then you would obey them. So that's my argument for utilitarianism. But we both concede that God's existence cannot be proven. Therefore, the only point of talking about this is to argue in favor of one or the other, which encourages morality more. And I don't think any one of us will deny the existence of morality. Otherwise, we wouldn't be ever talking about politics. And it is my contention that politics and religion are let me start. The distinction between politics and religion is a distinction without a difference. Jen continues, her arguments are mere justification for the existence of this imperialist, supremacist, dogmatic cult politically expanding to the ends of the earth. She doesn't like Jews, Muslims, and Christians, does she? These are the Abrahamic faiths, which she calls imperialist, supremacist, dogmatic. And when somebody calls your religion a cult, they are dismissing it as the religion of cranks, of fanatics, of fools. She continues, but I ask, what about the ignoble wars that brought untold suffering among numerous people simply for being idolaters? So, she's saying, the Jews, or the Israelites, I should say, they basically took over Canaan, didn't they? These are the idolaters that she must be thinking about. So poor old idolaters who practiced child sacrifice, who weren't really nice people, really, who were matriarchies and idolaters. But she defends them. She's now the protectress of idolaters. And she wants to protect them from Jews, Christians, and Muslims whom she believes will exterminate them. I've pointed out to her many a time that there are many Muslim countries that have Hindu temples, Buddhist temples. But she cannot accept it. So she will always go back to the tired accusation that I intend to exterminate, persecute, and execute idolaters. This is, of course, a lie, because under secular Quranism, chapter 2, verse 256, guarantees freedom of worship for all in the state. All citizens in the state will be guaranteed freedom of belief, and it is also my belief that the First Amendment, tabled by Thomas Jefferson, who actually had a copy of the Quran and who actually read it in order to better negotiate terms with Barbary pirates, he did read it. And he did table the precursor of the First Amendment, I think in the state of Virginia. So, Church of Entropy goes on to ask, what about all the imperialism which Claire has many times defended as being a good thing? I'll put my hands up to saying that all great civilizations are great empires, and all great empires are great nations. She goes on to say, I do think that's very wise, what I said about imperialism, because we live on a finite surface and we cannot expand in perpetuity upon the surface. We must learn to live as peaceably as possible. So Jen assumes that empire is perpetual war. Actually, it isn't. When an empire comes into its own, we get Pax Romana, Pax Britannia, and Pax Americana. So, empire also brings peace, but I don't think she knows that. And I wasn't able to point this out because I was given no further opportunity to speak on the matter. Jen continues, Claire has insisted that all the Jews have a personal God, but if this is the case, how could God have chosen them to be his people? What do you think is the import of this question? She's saying, of all the people in the world, why, oh why, oh why, oh why did God choose these dreadful people to be his chosen people? Perhaps I'm wrong, Jen, but this is how I interpret it. I don't know what you mean by that question. If you're saying that you are surprised and aghast that God could have chosen Jews to be his chosen people, why on earth? Why? You could see no reason. I did explain it to you, but you may have forgotten. She goes on to say, the ability to make a choice implies one can change, and an impersonal God would be unchanging because the capacity to change or to change one's mind or to make a choice is a personal thing. I don't know. That's nonsense to me. I don't know what that means. Moreover, the personality of this entity appears to be to change quite drastically from the Old Testament to the New. I don't know what that means either. Is she saying that the God of the Jews became the idolatrous gods of the Christian through Jesus? It is only possible to worship. Perhaps she means that, but we will never know. Perhaps because, well, I wasn't able to ask her questions on what she could possibly mean. No answers regarding this dramatic shift in personality are forthcoming from Claire. Well, you only just asked a question, didn't you, Jen? And since I wasn't given the opportunity to answer the questions, I guess it's not answered. That's the reason why it wasn't answered. Claire has suggested an impersonal God will not bring about morality, but Claire is actually just deflecting from the fact that her personal God has never brought about morality, nor people obeying their own rules for any reason other than selfish materialism, and it appears that she has failed to grasp the totality of the argument that is being made here. Well, I certainly fail to grasp the totality of the argument that is being made here, but I don't think I'm the only one, am I? And this is the final paragraph. It should make the most sense, but it doesn't, in my view. Claire has the audacity to assert that I have not examined myself, but how else did I find the mind is a quantum computer if not through self-inquiry? I must have had a pretty good mind to be able to figure out the source of its consciousness and the nature of its consciousness. I've done what no one else has done before me. I've proven beyond a shadow of doubt what happens after death. Thus, I must have spent a large part of my life doing self-inquiry. So I wonder why Claire is attempting to undermine me in this fashion when the position can be so easily defeated. I would like to thank those for coming to the debate, apologize for the lateness, and most of all, thank the moderator for her patience and wisdom guiding us forward in this debate. It's a very difficult subject, so I hope that the material covered here hasn't been too upsetting for people. I have read the totality of Jen's rebuttal of my position. Did it make sense to you? Did it make sense to anyone? I will send a link to Jen. Strangely, Jay is offering to defend Jen. What a turnout. I think, Jay, the only way you can defend her is if you understand her ideas, and if you understand her ideas, you are cleverer than all of us. Clearly. No, but I haven't finished yet, have I? I have so much more to say. But would you excuse me a moment? I have something to attend to. How am I being unfair to Jen, Jay? Actually, it would be fairer not to let her come on, because I don't think she can defend her position. I haven't finished yet. I've only just begun. Erica, you don't seem to remember that I didn't have a I didn't have any chance to respond to what Jen said. Nobody even noticed or cared that I didn't have the opportunity to rebut her rebuttal. Nobody gave a damn. Nobody understood the rules, did you? You're so... You don't even understand the purpose of the rules. So it was like, yeah, Claire, you spoke twice, Jen spoke twice. That's it. But, obviously Jane raised issues that you thought clinched the argument for her that I wasn't even allowed to address. And you know what? I wasn't allowed to address it either in the post stream. This is how fucking rigged it all was. And you don't even see it. And there were you all saying, oh, of course Jen won the argument. Let's go to the second stream. So I can explain to you exactly the sequence of events. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not regretting appearing on it. I knew I would get this sort of treatment, but it still makes me just a little angry that apparently educated people can't see it. I knew you would break the game. It was just an exercise to give you all the rope you needed to rig the game and pat yourselves on the shoulder, on each other's back, to say how fair and how you were to me, and how wonderful Jen was, and how she proved all her points. So in the second video, entitled Chillstream Postcard Debate, David suddenly said, "Oh, I don't know what you meant by God being personal or impersonal. You made it clear. That's terrible. Such bad debating preparation." And I did point out to him again and again and again that whatever he found difficult to understand, it was enough for the purpose of the debate that Jen and I knew what we were arguing about, and so did the moderator. This was completely ignored by Duvid, who kept going on about it again and again, at the expense of the point I was trying to make. The point is really that, let's just, accept that the morons in the chat or who orbit Jen, just not because they care about the arguments, but because I guess they just want to bask in the warmth of her voice. They don't really care about her ideas, but there we go. We'll just go on from that. They don't care about the ideas. They don't care about the validity of the arguments. They probably don't even know what validity means. So there's no point arguing with them. But let our objective bystander be Erica, the moderator, aka citizen reporter. So, in the 5th minute, I asked to discuss morality. In the 6th minute, Duvid says, Judaism and Islam have impersonal gods, and idolaters have personal deities. So he's basically saying that all idolaters have personal gods. So whether he intended to do it or not, he muddied the waters. And anyway, his definition of idolatry were not Jen's and my understanding of idolatry. But anyway, he kept going on about it, and Jen never thought to stop him. So in the 7th minute, I point out that Jen and I were clear what we meant, and Duvet confirms this confusion by going on at length. And then John Vance joins on the 12th minute. The 13th minute, Erica makes clear she didn't understand Jen's position. Only now she tells everyone she didn't know what the hell Jen was talking about. Even though she told me that she would stop Jen if she didn't understand what Jen was saying. Fuck that for a game of soldiers. But thank you, Erica, for admitting that you didn't understand her position. But of course, it wouldn't be politic for you to point that out during Jen's speech. It would have, put her off her flow. Might get her upset with you or something. And then you wouldn't be streaming with her anymore, would you, Erica? In the 18th minute, Erica admits that there was quite a lot of stuff that she didn't quite understand, but she never asked a question, though she promised me she would. Or maybe that wasn't a promise. Maybe she just said she would, and then, that wasn't a promise. That wasn't a promise, so I don't have to. And then she claimed I lost my train of thought. Let's see what my train of thought was. Let's go back over what I said that suggests I lost my train of thought, Erica. Is it my rebuttal? Okay, my rebuttal basically said, I don't know what the hell Jen is on about. I don't know the basis of her claims. I'm not allowed to ask her the basis of her claims. I understand hardly anything of what she says. I'll read it out for you. Jen has stated a number of very complicated ideas that I do not believe many people understand. I do not believe that the moderator herself understands all her talk about periodic table and the symmetry of God and how the periodic table is evidence of God's beauty and perfection. These are unusual views not explicable within the time allotted, which is only 7 minutes. I've been told that I am to ignore the things that cannot be understood by either the moderator or myself, and only concentrate on what I do understand and manage to note down the very brief speech, and that they are merely assertions as far as I can tell. So Jen claims that there is a utility in a personal God, and as far as I can tell, in an impersonal God. And as far as I can tell, did not explain the reasons. Sorry, let me start again. So Jen claims that there is utility in a personal God and did not explain the reasons. She said that a personal God causes war and imperialism and death and destruction, and this is not understood. Well, why this would cause more war and imperialism than the wars countries that don't subscribe to the Abrahamic faith. I cannot rebut them in a sense that I cannot undermine the reasons, because I've not been given reasons for her claims. So it is actually very difficult for me to operate under these very difficult conditions when I don't even understand the points that are being made and are not allowed to ask questions about the conclusions she bases her arguments on. It is not clear why a personal God is destructive, bringing war and imperialism, and it is not clear why the impersonal God is better than a personal God, and why it would prevent war and destruction. You may have noticed I was waffling a bit. I don't mind admitting that, since, well, what else can I do except make the point again and again that I don't know what the hell Jen is talking about. I don't quite see what the periodic table has to do with the impersonal God, apart from the fact that the periodic table is not expected to care about us personally. I cannot see the reasoning behind it, and if the moderator sees the reasoning on which Jen's arguments are based, I will be very grateful for the moderator's explanation of what Jen has just said. There's something about mass being eternal that she said, and there's the mass distribution of the universe. These are all very technical issues which are not understood by the average person, and for some reason, I'm expected to understand all these reasons when previously I haven't been able to understand it myself after many hours of asking Jen. I think, at the very least, the terms of what Jen is relying on should be understandable to at least a moderator. I really have no more to say on the matter other than I fail to understand Jen's position, and that I can't be expected to rebut something I can't understand using the reasonings that are not explained properly. But I'm happy to proceed with it and put my case for personal God. But that's the extent of the rebuttal I can do when I understand so little of what Jen is relying on. Did I lose my train of thought, Erica? It was pretty damn clear what I was trying to say. Third video. So basically, the third video, it was just a lot of waffle at the beginning. There's nothing relevant until the 35th minute of the first hour. So that was when I joined the stream, and again we argue about God being personal, impersonal, and the fact that Duvet didn't know what we meant. Do listen to it. It was just because I don't think you will, get how much I was being barracked by all of them, to the extent that they were interrupting each other in their efforts to interrupt me, but with no moderation from Jen at all. I was only trying to make a very simple point, but I was prevented again and again and again and again. But eventually I did make the point, because that was the only way that Jen knew she could get rid of me. But boy, was she reluctant for me to make the point. So, first hour, 35th minute. No, sorry, it's not the first hour. It would actually be the second hour. So it goes 1:35. Just look at the blog if you're not sure. So I challenged Duvid. I mean, I did tell him that he was talking shit about Judaism, and that was the best thing about it, really. Finally getting to tell Duvid that he talks shit about Judaism. He didn't seem to know anything about the 13 principles of Judaism. But anyway, I knew that the 10th principle of Judaism is as follows. I believe by complete faith that the Creator, blessed be his name, knows every action done by each human being as well as all their thoughts, as it was said. It is he that fashions their hearts together, and he ponders all their deeds. Duvet completely rejects this. It isn't discussed. Jen mocks me for posting a novel because the 13 Principles of Judaism were a novel to her. We must take note that she has said many a time that she doesn't like reading. She doesn't even read her own Vedas. She can't even list them, in fact. And then Duvid waffles on about God's personality. I point out that God has attributes. He keeps bringing it back to personality. And then, interesting point, bit in 143 when Jen waffles nonsensically. It's one of those sort of word salad sentences. I stop her. I ask her to explain what she just said, talking slower because, morons like me can't understand what she says. She refuses because, of course, she's forgotten. You can't remember word salads. You can't remember word salads the way you can't remember long phone numbers because they don't mean anything. That's why you can't remember them. And then she says, the universe is God. The universe is God, and because the universe exists, God exists. That's her reasoning. And then she says, our hearts and minds count as subset of the universe. Unlike most people, I'm very happy to acknowledge when I don't know what you mean. So I say again that I don't know what she means. So she's saying, we are God. I think she's saying we are God. Then she says, Earth is a subset of the universe. Everything is an oscillating harmonic of God. And then she says, whether God knows everything depends on what you mean by know. And then she talks about panpsychism. And then at 2:09, she says, I would say that as humans, our conception of God is limited by our human understanding, so regardless of the ultimate nature of God, we're going to personalize God through the lens of our ego. And if you accept my definition of God, that God equals the universe, and there is no such thing as a permanent personality, and so God would sort of see all the time, in some sense, simultaneously, and minor fluctuations like a temporary human personality maybe wouldn't be recognized as personal to this entity because it does no means to distinguish between living and non-living flesh, so you could possibly just construct the argument. But again, there's the challenge of setting up these definitions, which I think this conversation's really shown us how difficult it is just to agree on definitions in the first place. But she wins the argument, right? And all the friends think she wins the argument, right? Right. No, I don't want you to come on, Jaywalker. No, I don't want to spend another hour listening to waffle. Yeah, I know you can waffle just as well as she does. You thought she won. You were the one who said you thought she won. Go and defend her position then on your own stream. I'm helping you promote your stream. So off you go. Off you go. No, it won't only take 5 minutes. You take 5 minutes on your stream because you forget now that you thought Jen had won the debate. And you actually said you didn't give a damn about the arguments and that we were stupid for arguing about these things. And this was just, what did you say? Pigwank? That's what you said. So you defend it on your stream, and I'll come over and have a listen. But I think I've made clear now. I've made clear now how totally unfitted the average person is to examine the validity of any arguments. So basically, what happened on Jen's stream is that she got all the supporters to be on the panel. I didn't actually want to object to that. I tried to get John. He got kicked off, or he left after knowing that he would always get talked over by Duvid, and Jen would never ever stop him from talking over anyone. So, oh yes, Conops. He tried to defend me, but it was kicked off immediately. So who was there to defend me? But the thing is, actually, it is perfect that I was not allowed to have anyone who might support me posting in the chat. That I was not really allowed to have anyone on my side at all appearing in any of the streams. And when I was suffered to join the stream, she basically made everybody talk me out. And of course, the most important thing was, I wasn't even that bothered about the stupid rules that nobody cared about because nobody would listen to formal debates. Nobody listens to formal debates now because A, people don't know how to do it, right, Jen? And B, people don't give a damn about these stupid fucking rules. Now, who could you describe as educated in that panel of gents who decided that I had totally lost the debate? Well, let's go to Duvid, the Jew, who doesn't even know his own religion. He doesn't even know that God is meant to be omniscient, and he didn't even know the 10th principle of Judaism as articulated by Maimonides. But Jen lets him take over all her streams, and he is king. So, of course, he will always be supporting her. You see how this thing works? And if any of you ever wonder about why your civilization is going down the toilet, let me just point out how it works. Your government is governed on the basis of how Jen runs her entourage. And I lose on the basis of how I run mine. And this is how it works. And this is apparently how you like it. So, one of these days, the shit will be all flushed away. And you with it. So enjoy yourselves in your toilet.